Ulterion eventually found a fisherman who would sail him over to the continent of Thier. During the voyage, Ulterion discovered that his captain was a were octopus. But that's a story for another day. The tide hit the beach, bringing rocks, seaweed, and Ulterion. Waterlogged Ulterion. Ulterion woke up gasping and spitting out salt water. Ulterion looked up to take in his surroundings.
Where am I?
And all he saw was beach and forest.
Great. I'm lost.
After drying off a bit, and a quick cry, Ulterion made his way through the forest.
Alright, if I can find a high enough vantage point, get an idea where I am.
Ulterion heard a few suspicious forest noises.
And I better find out soon.
Ulterion got to the top of the hill with a strange feeling.
This feels familiar.
As Ulterion got to the top of the hill, his heart skipped a beat, and a smile came across his face.
Civilization!
In the distance, Ulterion could see a few buildings, although he was too far to make them out.
Finally, a break.
Ulterion, with renewed energy, started running towards civilization. As Ulterion got closer to civilization, noises hit his ears, and his nose caught a plethora of scents.
Those pastries are like music to my nose.
Ulterion stopped running, and the realization hit him.
Wait. Those are pastries. Familiar pastries. This is... Oh no. It can't be.
Ulterion walked down the cobblestone, looking around, confirming his suspicion. He looked around to see many things pale and pointing, paid him no mind. This was the land of Frankzenbeans, home of the elves. Ulterion didn't know what city he was in, but if it was like any other Frankzenbeans, he knew he would hate it. He remembered his youth in the city of La Capitale as servant of a rich elven family. He was treated no better than a beast of burden.
Let's see.
Ulterion shook his head again, regained his focus. He didn't have time for nostalgia. He had a mission to complete and less time to complete it. He unrolled his list. Ulterion perused his list.
What am I getting from here? Here it is. Elfberry wine. Finally, an easy one.
Ulterion talked to the clerk at a cafe.
What?
The clerk merely sneered at Ulterion.
I told you, 1,000 gold or away with you.
That's ridiculous.
So's your face.
Ulterion sneered at the clerk.
Can't we negotiate here?
The clerk shrugged.
I can give you the human discount.
Ulterion smiled.
Really?
Yes. 2,000 gold.
That's double the price.
Oh, good. The human can do mass. Now leave my shop.
Ulterion stormed out of the cafe, grumbling. Meanwhile, Lumiex and the Revolution, mostly a short, fat human named Blaise, who struggled to carry a sword,
Man, you fool, or we will miss it.
Lumiex was a man of the people, mostly human people, considering he was half elf. His father was an elven noble, and his mother was a human servant. His mother was let go shortly after his birth to avoid complications. His father certainly couldn't afford to have a bastard half-breed roaming about, considering Lumiex was a product outside of his marriage. Since his mother was free of service, she survived by providing company to lonely lords. Since his mother was always busy, so he practically raised himself. He had achieved leadership over the human children, maybe just Blaise, and it was his life mission to get revenge, and his human friend were his means to do so.
Come on. Come on.
The revolution quickened his pace.
Gregg as fast as I can.
Also, meanwhile, Almadriel was taking her bath while her maid stood ready for her beck and call. She played with a duck toy. Almadriel lived a life of no cares, no responsibilities. No fun.
Marie, fetch me my towel. I grow bored of the bath.
Also, meanwhile, Ulterion continued his trek through the city, still unsuccessful in his quest.
Where can I get this damn wine?
Almadriel was being dressed by her maids, Marie hemming her dress.
They told me they had the carriage ready.
Almadriel was bored.
Yay!
Mademoiselle, I thought you loved the carriage rides.
When I was a little girl, I've seen this city. More of it than I care about.
Do you wish to cancel?
No need. I might as well be bored in the carriage. At least then I can pretend I am going somewhere interesting.
Lumiex and his revolution brought their barrel to a carriage where the carriage driver was asleep. Lumiex called his revolution over to the carriage.
Come on, let's go. We don't have much time.
The revolution popped the keg next to the carriage. Lumiex tensed up.
Careful, stupid.
Blaise nervously saluted Lumiex.
Yes, Monsieur Capitaine.
Lumiex put a finger to his lips and shushed Blaise. Blaise clamped a hand over his mouth. Lumiex rolled his eyes as he checked on the carriage driver. The carriage driver was still asleep. Lumiex shook his head.
It's a good thing they hire useless people.
Ulterion continued his aggravated trek through the city. Ulterion saw two other humans and smiled.
Maybe they'll be more helpful.
Almadriel was led through a hall by her maids and guards. Marie smiled at Almadriel.
Cheer up, mademoiselle. Maybe something interesting will happen.
I doubt it.
Lumiex struck two flint rocks together over the powdered trail.
Come on. Come on.
Excuse me?
Lumiex and the Revolution jumped up in fear. The two revolutionaries turned. Lumiex had rage on his face.
How dare you interrupt us?
Ulterion looked worried.
Sorry, I'm just looking for Elfberry.
Lumiex looked to his revolution.
We have to hurry.
Blaise nodded as Ulterion looked confused.
What is going...
Lumiex smacked the flint rocks together again, which caused a spark, which lit the trail of the gunpowder, which confused Ulterion.
Huh?
Lumiex threw the flint rocks into Ulterion's hand.
What the?
Lumiex shouted to Blaise. Blaise nodded.
Oui, Capitaine.
The two men ran off, which upset Ulterion.
Hey, what are you...
Ulterion saw the gunpowder trail burning towards a barrel hidden under the carriage.
Oh no.
Ulterion followed the burning gunpowder.
I have to stop this.
Almadriel and her entourage descended the stairs of the palace towards the carriage. A guard saw the carriage driver sleeping.
Get up, lazy pig swine.
The carriage driver is startled awake.
Huh? What? What? The lady wishes to take a carriage ride.
Oh, so sorry, mademoiselle. I will. Does anyone here listening?
Ulterion ran after the burning trail of gunpowder. Ulterion looked ahead towards the carriage. He saw elves walking towards the carriage. Ulterion picked up the pace. Almadriel and her entourage stood at the steps while her guards shouted at the carriage driver.
Don't change the subject, lazy swine.
I am not. I heard something and...
The carriage driver sniffed the air.
Something is burning.
Get away from the carriage.
Everyone looked towards a crazy human charging towards them.
Who is that?
Probably one of those revolutionaries.
The guards signaled to some archers on the palace walls behind him.
Archers, ready your bows.
Ulterion ran towards the carriage screaming.
Get away from the carriage.
Ulterion stopped in his tracks as he saw the archers on the palace aim their bows at him. Ulterion waved his hands furiously.
Wait! You don't understand. You're in danger. Fuck.
The carriage exploded before the guard could give the order. The explosion threw Ulterion back. The explosion sent Almadriel and her entourage flying backwards. Ulterion falls on his back on the ground. Almadriel and her entourage hit the ground. Ulterion tried to get up, but unconsciousness overcame him. Lumiex and the Revolution watched everything play out. Lumiex was angry.
Damn it. You were supposed to kill her.
Capitaine?
Lumiex shot an angry glare at the Revolution.
Go on.
Could look like a hero.
Lumiex was curious. Ulterion came into consciousness
Uh-huh.
to find he was no longer on the uncomfortable ground,
What the?
but on an uncomfortable cot in a prison cell.
Where am I?
He looked through the bars to see Almadriel's guard and an elven noble staring at him. He waved nervously.
Hello?
The elven noble continued to glare at Ulterion.
Bonjour.
Ulterion looked around his cell, confused.
Why am I in a cell?
The elven noble smirked.
You don't have to stay.
Ulterion smiled.
Great,
The elven noble's smile faded into a very serious glare.
As soon as you tell me where my daughter is.
Ulterion's smile faded to a look of confusion and fear.
I'm sorry, what?
And meanwhile, at an abandoned winery, Almadriel awoke and looked around.
Where?
Almadriel found herself in an old wine cellar.
Oh my God, this place is disgusting.
Lumiex and the Revolution stood outside of their prisoner's cell, talking.
Great plan, Blaise. But why did we kidnap this girl?
So we can ransom her, Captain. They will have to take us seriously.
Lumiex nodded.
That is brilliant. Glad I thought of it.
Blaise sneered.
Of course, monsieur.
Lumiex scratched his chin as a thought came to him.
The question is, what do we do with her when they meet our demands?
Blaise shrugged.
We could kill her.
Lumiex nodded and shrugged.
Sounds good to me.
Little did the two conspirators know that they had an audience as Almadriel listened with her ear to the door of her cell.
Oh my God.
A plan started to form in her mind. Lord Jacques, an elven noble and Almadriel's father, sat across from Ulterion with a bucket of water between them. Two elven guards held Ulterion by his arms. Lord Jacques smiled.
Are you thirsty, monsieur?
Ulterion looked at the bucket of water, then towards Lord Jacques.
Not really.
Lord Jacques nodded.
Oh, good.
Lord Jacques' smile disappeared.
Then tell me where my daughter is.
Ulterion shook his head.
I don't know.
Is that right?
Lord Jacques nodded to the guards. The guards nodded back. Ulterion was puzzled.
What are...
The two guards shoved Ulterion's head into the bucket of water. Ulterion struggled to get up, but was not strong enough to rebuke the two guards. And doing his best to force the water out of his mouth and nose. Before unconsciousness could take him, Lord Jacques shouted,
Pull him up.
and the guards pulled him up. Lord Jacques leaned forward and glared at Ulterion intensely.
Now, where is my daughter?
Ulterion gasped for air.
I don't know.
Lord Jacques shook his head. He looked to his guards.
Again.
The guards nodded. Ulterion shook his head furiously.
Please, wait, don't.
The guards dunked Ulterion's head back into the bucket. Blaise entered the cell to feed the prisoner. He had acquired some fancy bread and some water.
Mademoiselle, I have breakfast for you.
Almadriel's naked leg appeared from behind a barrel.
Thank you so much.
Blaise was taken aback.
I brought you bread and water.
Almadriel pouted in a seductive manner.
No wine?
Sorry, I...
Blaise realized what was going on.
Wait, I mean, you take your bread and water.
Blaise shoved the bread and water into Almadriel's hands forcefully.
And I don't want to hear any complaints.
Almadriel kept up her seduction.
Oh my, you are so forceful and strong, monsieur.
Blaise looked at Almadriel in surprise.
Really?
Blaise shook his head and became strong again.
Eat your food and quiet yourself. We need to talk ransom with your father.
Blaise turned to walk away, but was cut off by Almadriel, who started feeling him up.
What do you mean by thee?
What do you mean by... What do you mean?
Almadriel kissed Blaise's neck whilst hiding an eye roll.
Why do you need that, Lumiex?
Lumiex.
What?
His name is Lumiex.
Almadriel looked at Blaise in confusion and annoyance.
What?
Almadriel shook her head.
Oh, never mind.
Almadriel went back to seduction.
Anyway, what I was getting at is why don't you talk to my father?
Blaise pointed to himself.
Me? By myself?
But of course, imagine with me.
Almadriel pulled Blaise close to her so that their cheeks were touching.
You turn in your friend and we
She pointed between the two of them.
will have an alliance. Me, a princess, and you.
Almadriel gave Blaise's lips a kiss.
My hero.
Blaise stared into Almadriel's eyes.
What would be my prize?
Almadriel laughed demurely as she gave Blaise a kiss.
How about a taste?
Meanwhile, Ulterion was chained to a rack. Lord Jacques sat in a chair facing Ulterion.
I think this will put the truth out of you.
Ulterion gave the Lord a puzzled look.
Pull the truth out? Is that even a saying? What does that even mean?
Lord Jacques smiled.
I am glad you asked.
Lord Jacques nodded to a guard who was operating a wheel. The guard nodded back and started pulling the wheel. And Ulterion felt himself being stretched.
I get it now.
I am glad you did. Now, where is my daughter?
The rack continued to stretch Ulterion.
I don't know.
Is that right?
Lord Jacques nodded to the guards again. The guard pulled the wheel again. Blaise and Almadriel laid together on the floor after some passionate love-making, at least for one of them.
Wow, that was amazing.
Almadriel rolled her eyes.
Yes, it was amazing.
Blaise, did you feed the prisoner?
Ooh.
Ulterion was bent over a block with his back exposed. Lord Jacques sat in front of him as two guards whipped him.
Where is my daughter?
I don't know.
A guard whipped Ulterion.
Ah!
Where is my daughter?
The other guard whipped Ulterion.
I'll tell you.
Lord Jacques nodded to the two guards. They backed away. He leaned closer to Ulterion.
Yes?
I don't know. I just wanted them to stop whipping me.
Lord Jacques just glared at Ulterion, then nodded to the guards, who nodded back and went back to whipping Ulterion.
Ah! Ah!
Blaise managed to sneak out of the cell before Lumiex entered it. Lumiex shouted.
Princess, come here.
Almadriel came out of her hiding place, not wearing much, which surprised Lumiex. She gave him an innocent yet seductive look.
Yes?
Lumiex's eyes wandered over Almadriel's body. She smirked as she caught him doing so. He shook his head to compose himself.
I am going to open discussions with your father. Is there a message you wish me to convey?
Almadriel came closer to Lumiex.
You should tell him about the man I desire.
What?
Almadriel embraced Lumiex.
I am attracted to power, and the man who could take me in broad daylight must be powerful indeed.
Almadriel started caressing Lumiex.
I am very attracted to power.
Almadriel whispered into Lumiex's ear.
So is my father.
Lumiex looked at Almadriel with concern and interest.
Is that right?
Almadriel started kissing Lumiex's neck.
Something concerns me.
Lumiex slowly gave in to her.
Oh?
Your partner.
Lumiex sneered.
My subordinate?
Almadriel nodded nervously.
Of course. What concerns me about your subordinate doesn't seem too loyal.
You think so?
Almadriel looked around.
I wasn't going to say anything, but he tried to take advantage of me.
Lumiex was shocked.
What? I'll kill him. Then what should I do?
Almadriel went back to kissing Lumiex's neck.
When you return me to my father, we can take care of him here.
And you will be taking care of me?
Let me give you a taste.
Almadriel kissed Lumiex passionately. Ulterion is thrown back into his cell. As Lord Jacques glared at Ulterion.
I have some good news for you.
Ulterion painfully picked himself up off the floor to face Lord Jacques.
Good. I could use some good news.
We are done with interrogations.
Ulterion smiled.
That's great.
Because you are to be executed tomorrow.
Ulterion's smile faded as fast as it came.
That's less good.
Blaise and Lumiex stood outside of the cell, eyeing each other suspiciously.
Were you able to send the letter?
Yes. But I'm curious.
Oh?
I was curious as to why you couldn't join me in this delivery.
Lumiex felt a twinge of fear from the comment, but remained calm. He had been conversing with the prisoner.
I was making sure the prisoner wasn't scheming. Speaking of which, did she say anything when you brought her the food? I didn't see you for a while after that.
Blaise was taken aback, but remained calm.
I was hungry myself and had to find food for me.
Is that so? What did you have?
Blaise started to sweat.
I had a bit of cheese.
Lumiex nodded with a sneer.
Fascinating.
The two men stood in uncomfortable silence. Lord Jacques was getting ready for bed when there was a knock on his door. Lord Jacques was annoyed.
What is it?
You have a letter, monsieur.
What?
Ulterion tried to get comfortable in his cell, as comfortable as anyone can be in a small cell, when Lord Jacques barged into the dungeon with a letter in his hand. Several guards followed him. Lord Jacques was not very happy as he shook the paper at Ulterion.
Explain this.
Ulterion looked from Lord Jacques to the paper and back to Lord Jacques.
This is a piece of paper.
Lord Jacques sneered.
Don't get wise with me, swine.
Me? Wise? Trying to save an elven princess got me in prison and tortured. I'm not wise at all.
Lord Jacques looked at Ulterion in confusion.
What was that?
I said I was trying to save your daughter.
Lord Jacques should again.
Why didn't you tell me this?
You didn't ask.
Lord Jacques looked from Ulterion to the piece of paper in his hand, and then back to Ulterion.
Then who sent me this?
Ulterion shrugged.
I don't know,
Ulterion remembered the rude men he spoke to before the carriage blew up.
Wait.
Blaise walked with Almadriel. He had a dagger to her throat. He glared at Lumiex, who walked before them.
What do you plan to say?
Lumiex was nervous, but kept
I was thinking that I go.
his cool.
I'm sure you have.
What was that?
Blaise panicked.
I said, I'm sure you have, because you are so smart.
Lumiex sneered at Blaise.
I'm sure you did.
They continued to walk in silence. Lord Jacques, Ulterion, and several guards marched down to the road in the middle of the night. Lord Jacques turned to talk to Ulterion.
You had better be right about this.
Ulterion was upset.
I didn't suggest anything. The paper told you to meet them.
Lord Jacques sneered at Ulterion.
Silence.
Ulterion shrank away.
It did.
Lord Jacques' group met Lumiex's group in a back alley. Upon looking on the Lord, Lumiex's eyes widened.
Father?
Almadriel looked towards Lumiex in shock and disgust. Blaise looked at Lumiex in shock.
Father?
Lord Jacques shook his head in disbelief.
Father?
Ulterion shrugged.
This seems like a private moment. I'll show myself out.
Ulterion tried to leave, but the guard pointed a crossbow at him.
Okay.
Ulterion remained in place as the family drama continued. Lumiex pointed his dagger at Lord Jacques.
Told me all about you. See the portrait of you that I mesmerized. I knew that one day we would meet, and I would have the pleasure of killing you myself. I've been waiting for this day.
Hold it right there.
Lumiex was surprised to find his friend pointing a dagger to his throat.
Blaise, how dare you?
How dare I? How dare I? You convinced me as you had a mission for those hurt by the system, but all I was to you was a childish revenge plot. How dare you?
You traitorous swine.
You lying pig!
Both men stabbed each other in the stomach.
I'm sorry.
Me. To.
Both men fell over, dead. Everyone stared at the two dead men in awkward silence.
Is there any chance I can get some elfberry wine?
Everyone glared at Ulterion.
You know what? It can wait.